Well, I know it looks like I'm overdressed this morning for June, for mid-June. Just a couple of days ago here in Sacramento, it was 104 degrees in our backyard, and we were doing everything we could to keep the house nice and cool enough to at least live. Uh, this morning it's 51 degrees, and I cracked out my old uh, turtleneck sweater just to keep warm this morning. Anyway, happy Saturday and happy Saturday cartoons. I know I mentioned the famous 1931 cartoon, the Betty Boop cartoon, Bimbo's Initiation, and I posted it this morning, but I know a lot of you have seen it anyway yesterday. But anyway, the reason I posted that, and we're talking about initiations and such, is that I'm reading yesterday, and probably a little bit tomorrow, from my address to a symposium, a 3-day symposium of esoteric Masons back in 2004. And I called it Ritual Work, Memory Work, and the Fear of Death in Public Speaking. And part of the address I would eventually use in several publications, and some of the material for the address I drew from my book, Angels, Demons, and Gods of the New Millennium. But anyway, we have gotten so far as to part 2 of my address. And if you want to see part 1, just scroll down or go to YouTube and see it. But part 2, I just call Wanna Be a Member, Wanna Be a Member. Initiate. As a noun, it means beginner. As a verb, it means to begin, to bring into practice or use, also to instruct. As an adjective, it means started. Initiation is a commencement, not a reward for achievement, not a seal of attainment, not a trophy of adeptship. Initiation is a beginning, and when we evoke a beginning, we also, by necessity, conjure an ending. Death is the inevitable penalty we pay for allowing ourselves to be born. And the honor of life's journey between these two great pylons is the only compensation offered for this fate. The uninitiated invoke neither birth nor life nor death. Like sleepwalkers, our numbed steps bear us comatose from cradle to grave. Our pale shadow lives pantomime, but never experience the adventures of the initiate's journey. Like other mammals, we are born and live and die. But unless we make a conscious effort to wake up, unless we harness and focus the power of our wills to take the first steps of spiritual renewal, we will not, as Homer sang in his hymn to Demeter, we will not receive our share of the right. We will not have the same lot as the initiate once we are dead and dwell in the mold where the sun goes down. Prostitution may be the oldest profession in the world, but the oldest spiritual institution is most certainly the initiatory society. To those who would argue that religion holds this august position, I must respectfully disagree. Religion merely haunts the outer courts of the great initiatory temple and holds mystery at arm's length. From the occasional thread of truth carried by the wind from the initiatory chamber, religion psychotically weaves and reweaves doctrines and dogma, tapestries of hope, hate, and perpetual distraction. Religion exalts mystery as an unknowable secret that must be sealed in glass, like the corpse of an enchanted princess, and fearfully worshipped from afar. Initiation, on the other hand, requires direct participation and demands each of us to smash the casket and press mad lips to mystery, wooing her as a lover who will offer her up her treasures in a succession of sweet surrenders. This she will do, but only in exact ratio to our evolving ability and worthiness to receive them. The formula of initiation is universal. And Masonry certainly hasn't cornered the market. It matters little what specific mystery is revealed in the graduated steps of any particular initiatory society. Properly executed, a degree of illumination can potentially be achieved even in the most innocuous rite. Scholars, soldiers, sailors, physicians, printers, blacksmiths, even thieves, and hangmen have historically enjoyed the benefits and privileges of fraternal orders. Remnants of the rites of our prehistoric brethren can be seen in tribal ceremonies of indigenous people all over the planet. Initiations, circumcisions, ordeals of the hunt, sexual mysteries, secret words and signs, elaborate temple openings and closings, and reenactments of historic themes, oaths and covenants, ritual deaths and resurrections. Enough naked claptrap to make even the most conservative Freemason blush with embarrassment as he readily identifies key elements of his own craft. What is of primary importance is that the master key to the initiatory method itself becomes a permanently installed fixture in the individual. Once we've learned the process of becoming something greater than we are, we can and eventually will apply that same alchemy to ourselves to achieve the supreme attainment. But what about the Egyptian mysteries? Do we know with any degree of accuracy what they were? Is Masonry truly the inheritor of the Egyptian mysteries? The only honest answer is nobody really knows. There are those who claim to have combed the astral records and to eavesdrop on the moment when Plato or Pythagoras or Homer or Jesus were raised to spiritual perfection within the Great Pyramid. Great modern occultists, including Eliphas Levi, Aleister Crowley, and Manly Hall, have thrilled us with imaginative and colorful tales of the ancient initiate's journey. But no archaeologist has yet unearthed a first edition of Duncan's complete and unabridged Egyptian Initiator's Manual and Monitor, explained and interpreted with copious notes and numerous engravings. Or have they? Part 3. The Egyptian Book of Lucid Dreamings. Lucid dreaming. In parentheses, memories are made of this. quoting the old Dean Martin song of 1955. Let's see here. Stuck between the legs of every well-dressed Egyptian mummy is a magical text, literally stuck between the legs of every well-dressed Egyptian mummy, is a magical text written, so tradition would have us believe, by the god Thoth himself. Memorized to perfection in life, it enabled the recently deceased to negotiate step by step the ordeals and confusion of post-mortem existence, and become absorbed, as it were, fully identified with the immortal deity. The text is known to us as the Book of the Dead, and while unquestionably the scriptural centerpiece of an elaborately complex religious institution, it is, in my opinion, the fundamental handbook of initiation. There are those who will argue that I'm either overstating or even understating the case. They argue that if I were a serious scholar on the subject, I'd be aware of the complex evolution of the document, its arbitrary redundancies, omissions, and superfluous attachments. To such criticism, I humbly offer no resistance. I don't have a degree in Egyptology, nor have I taken it upon myself to learn hieroglyphics or become an amateur archaeologist. However, in the last 40 years, the gods have seen fit to allow me the privilege of ritually officiating at degree initiations of a great many individuals. I stopped counting at 700. The dialogue and blocking of the ceremonies long ago transcended memorization and has freed me to stand apart from myself and witness the proceedings from a magical vantage point. Within the sealed membrane of the tiled temple, time is suspended. I see in the darkness, and without any effort on my own, I am repeatedly allowed to become both the initiator and the candidate. It is in this capacity that I offer my credentials to comment on this subject. Almost every facet of modern degree initiation has its complement in the Book of the Dead. Just as the deceased is progressively raised to complete identity with the glorified Osiris, so too, the modern candidate is eventually raised to mastership of the rite. But even before the series of initiation begins, the candidate must undergo tests of his or her fitness to enter the rite. Are there any skeletons in the closet that, if uncovered, would bring embarrassment or shame upon the craft? Are the reasons for joining honorable? Such soul-searching must occur before the candidate petitions the lodge in writing, formally requesting to be considered for membership. Here's a quote from the Book of the Dead. "O my heart, which I had from my mother, O my heart, which I had from my mother, O my heart of my different ages, do not stand up as a witness against me. Do not oppose me to the tribunal. Do not be hostile to me in the presence of the keeper of the balance." The candidate must have a sponsor from within the lodge who vouches for the candidate and who will serve as his or her advocate before the membership. Again from the Book of the Dead. "Thus says Thoth, judge of truth, to the great Ennead, which is in the presence of Osiris, Hear this word of very truth. I have judged the heart of the deceased, and his soul stands as a witness for him. His deeds are righteous in the great balance, and no sin has been found in him. The membership hopefully accepts the recommendation of the sponsor and votes favorably on the petition. Again from the Book of the Dead. Thus says the great Aeneid to Thoth, who is in Hermopolis. This utterance of yours is true. The vindicated Osiris Ani, that's the candidate, is straightforward. He has no sin. There is no accusation against him before us. We have not blackballed him. I threw that in. The right itself represents the universe in its totality. Let me say that again. The right itself, the organization, the right is different than the organization and the people. The right is the right, okay? Whether you're joining the Golden Dawn or the OTO or the Masons or the Oddfellows or the Grange or the Elks or the Buffalo. The right itself is the universe in its totality. And the worshipful master symbolizes the supreme being. Each degree is a subdivision of the absolute, and it is impossible to comprehend the greater reality of each ascending world unless one is an illuminated master of the preceding degree. In temple workings, this reality is strictly acknowledged, as demonstrated in our practice of opening up and closing down from one degree to another. In magical orders, the grades correspond directly to levels of human consciousness and are based upon a recognizable schematic scaffolding such as the Tree of Life or the 30 Enochian Aethers. It's not a prerequisite in most orders for the candidate to actually achieve these progressively exalted states of consciousness. In the AA, that's the exception. You actually do have to at least self-identify with that level of consciousness. And if you do identify with those progressively high levels of consciousness, it doesn't mean jack shit that anyone else acknowledges that's where you are. Unless, of course, it means jack shit to you. But I digress. It's not a prerequisite in most orders for the candidate to actually achieve these progressively exalted states of consciousness. An order possessed of the omniscience to accurately adjudge such matters is most likely not found in the phone book. In most instances, including very serious magical orders, the degrees serve merely as a roadmap for the candidate's eventual personal, the candidate's inevitable personal odyssey. It's not uncommon for the truths communicated to the candidate in a lower grade to be amended or even contradicted in a higher degree. Be nice to your mother may be a worthy sentiment for a neophyte, but a master of the temple is well advised to tear thy mother from thy heart. Perhaps the most outstanding feature of the Book of the Dead is that the deceased is required on multiple occasions to pass through a series of gates or pylons. At each point, the traveler is barred from entry by a guardian who demands the secret keys unique to that particular station. Chapter 17 of the Book of the Dead outlines a journey through 7 gates. At each gate, the deceased is required to correctly state the name of the gatekeeper, the name of the guardian of the gate, and the name of the announcer who will proclaim the success or failure to pass. If successful, the deceased then has to declare the powers and nature of the station and the cosmic role he or she will be required to perform there. Quote from the Book of the Dead. The 4th gate. The name of its gatekeeper is one whose face repels, one of multitudinous voices. The name of its guardian is Alert One. The name of the announcer is one who repels the crocodile. Words spoken by Osiris Ani, that's the candidate. Words spoken by Osiris Ani, the vindicated, when arriving at the gate. I am the bull, the son of the kite of Osiris. Behold, you witnesses for his father, the possessor of his grace. For I have cut off harm from him. I have brought life for him at his nose for eternity. I am the son of Osiris. Make path for me, so that I might pass by in the gods' domain. Evolution is the result of a threefold process of resistance, struggle, and mutation. This is expressed in the magical formula E-A-O, spelled I-A-O. Isis or nature is ruined by Apophis, the forces of decay and destruction. The result of this seemingly disastrous struggle is the resurrection of a glorified Osiris. Isis, Apophis, Osiris, E-A-O. This formula is reflected in the degree ceremonies by the fact that the candidate is brought before the junior warden, senior wardens, and master at their stations for interrogation. Then, with the aid of the senior deacon acting as the client's guide and advocate, or the hegemon in the Golden Dawn rituals, the candidate's own holy guardian angel, the candidate overcomes the ordeals and is given permission by the authorities to continue. There's no question that the cosmic significance of lodge behavior is lost on the objective mind of most candidates and members, especially during the initiation ceremony yourself. You go, what the hell's going on? Yet I would wager that even the most lukewarm entered apprentice has had at least one fitful night's sleep in which his credentials, his apron, or his memory of signs and grips has been challenged in a temple nightmare. Once imprinted upon the subconscious mind, the formula of initiation is difficult, if not impossible, to remove. If allowed to imprint the deepest stratum of the psyche, it may even provide to the diligent aspirant the key to overcoming death. In the Book of the Dead, the deceased cannot skip the pylons and ordeals and cut straight to the boat ride. At each step of the way, the candidate must prove to the executors of the powers and energies of that particular quadrant that he or she knows the score. More importantly, at each step of the way, The candidate must convince the candidate that he or she knows the score. And this is where the power of memory work, self-image, and the ability to project and behave proactively in a strange and sometimes uncomfortable environment becomes a magical weapon. In chapter after chapter of the Book of the Dead, it's revealed that the deceased maintains a perpetual monologue of self-affirmations. It is though he or she must keep talking in order to maintain the focus necessary to avoid drifting astray in the afterlife. Could all this memorized chatter be used as a tool to overcoming death? After all, our consciousness of existence is all that is holding our individuality together. Perhaps if we could master a technique that would enable us to perpetuate our consciousness along each step of the post-mortem trail, we could maintain the equipment necessary to actually experience the bliss of our full spiritual destiny. Without such a technique, the individual consciousness unit will disintegrate and dissolve into the universal energy matrix, a soul eaten by Amit. Just listen to the links that the Book of the Dead goes to bolster the deceased's confidence and keep their mind minutely focused on the matter at hand. This is from the Book of the Dead. Come and enter by this door of the Hall of Justice, for you know us. We will not let you enter past us. Say the doorposts of this door, unless you tell us our name. Plummet of Truth is your name. I will not let you enter past me, says the right-hand leaf of the door, unless you tell me my name. Scalepan, which weighs truth, is your name. I will not let you enter by me, says the left-hand leaf of the door, unless you tell me my name. Scalepan of wine is your name. I will not let you pass me, says the floor of this door, unless you tell me my name, etc., etc., etc. This exchange goes on with the doorpost, the hasp, the cross timbers, and the door itself. And once in the hall, the deceased then goes through the same drill with the floor of the hall and a score of other pieces of furniture and body parts. One can almost hear the priest of Osiris giving a pep talk to the newly deceased. Atta boy, Annie. Don't stop thinking. Keep pretending. Pretend they ask. Pretend you answer. Pretend they ask. Pretend you answer. Stay concentrated. Keep up the flow of pretending. Don't give them time to throw you off guard. Don't give them time to ask you anything you can't answer. Keep it moving. There's another one. Tell him his name. Tell him what color his socks are. Tell him the name of his socks. Announce that you have the right to pass. Never mind what he looks like. You're cool. Keep moving. Don't be distracted. Keep focused. Focus yourself through the planes until you hit the mark. Epilogue. Ever since childhood, I've experienced dreams of flying. I now consider these experiences to be a variety of astral projection, and have developed my nocturnal flying skills to such a degree that under the right circumstances I can pop out quite easily. In my early years, however, each flight ended in exactly the same way. I'd be sailing along quite blissfully, fully intending to go somewhere, and then I'd realize I was flying and ask myself, how the hell am I doing this? And once that element of doubt entered the equation, I tumbled like Icarus. Over the years, I've talked to so many people who've had exactly the same experience that I've concluded it's a universal psychic occurrence. If a little bit of concentration and practice can enable us to remain airborne in dreams, could not the same skills be honed to propel us toward a supreme goal in the precious magic moments of early death consciousness? Is this why those who do not possess this skill, like Homer said, will not have the same lot as the initiate once they are dead and dwell in the mold where the sun goes down? Thank you very much, brothers, and good morning. And thank you very much. And good morning. Good Saturday morning. There's your cartoon for you. Tomorrow there'll be Sunday school if all goes well, and we'll think of something fun to do for Sunday school. Until then, continue to be good to yourself. Be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will.